Greed can be a powerful ally.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another Master Aiden Kenobi video. Today's video will be yet another fanfiction where we talk about what may have happened if Luke Skywalker turned to the dark side in Return of the Jedi. So without further ado, let's get on with the video. In the original timeline, Luke Skywalker defeated his father, Darth Vader, aka Anakin Skywalker. Emperor Palpatine then proceeded to electrocute Luke Skywalker, who was about to kill him, until his father saved him and killed the Emperor. In this alternate timeline, Luke would continue berating his father with lightsaber strikes until he lay dead on the floor. Luke would then proceed to rip his father's mask off of his lifeless face and say, "Now I'm Vader." Emperor Palpatine was somewhat shocked that the young Jedi had chosen this path, but it was what he wanted, an apprentice more powerful than Vader, and what better than the son of Anakin, a being with the same potential. "You're fulfilling your destiny, Luke. Become my apprentice and learn to use the dark side of the Force." "I will do whatever you ask, Master." "Good. What about the rebellion on the Endor moon?" "There will be no need to worry about them. Our remaining forces will take care of them. We must leave this place and return to my home on Coruscant." These turn of events would be detrimental for the galaxy as a whole, but especially for the rebellion. The Empire would not be shattered nearly as much as it was after Palpatine's death in the original timeline. In fact, the only thing that did not fall in the Empire's favor was the destruction of yet another Death Star. Despite this, the Emperor was still alive and now had a new, more powerful apprentice. There were also thousands of Imperial ships, fleets, commanders, and troops still left around the galaxy. Palpatine and Luke would travel off of the second Death Star in an Imperial Lambda shuttle, escaping just before it would blow up. The Emperor would command his admiral to pursue the rebels and eradicate them once and for all. He would also assure Piet that everything was proceeding as Palpatine had planned. The remaining Imperial troops would continue their attack on the rebels in space as well as on the surface of the Endor moon. While this was happening, the remaining rebel ships would start to land on the Endor moon to try and aid their friends that were already on the planet. Once they realized what the rebels were up to, Admiral Piet would command all of his forces to pursue the retreating rebels to the moon. Back on the surface of the planet, the remaining ground rebel troops were hiding and preparing for reinforcements and backup. Meanwhile, Han and Leia were among the last survivors. They were both devastated. They had both watched the Death Star blow up in the sky, and they thought they knew Luke was on it. They had to grieve quickly, for they needed to prepare for the next battle against the endless sea of Imperial troopers and Imperial officers that were storming down from the remaining Star Destroyers above. The remaining rebel troops alongside Han and Leia would eventually get the reinforcements, but it would not be nearly enough. The two would survive, as well as Lando and several other rebels, but they had been utterly and completely defeated by the Empire. After accepting defeat, they would retreat to the far reaches of space where the Empire would not be able to find them for the time being. Han and Leia would stay in hiding for quite a while, but eventually they would slowly but surely start to build up the rebellion again with the help of other survivors. Back on Coruscant, Emperor Palpatine and his new apprentice would continue to rule the Empire with an iron fist. The two would journey together on many missions across the vastness of the galaxy. For Luke, now known as Darth Starkiller, to continue his Darkside training. After a short while, Palpatine would allow his apprentice to assume the same role Vader had among the Imperial ranks. Every officer's commander was now Lord Starkiller. The Emperor's first objective would be to expand the Empire's reach to each and every Outer Rim world. Of course, Starkiller would be given this task. On his first Outer Rim objective, Lord Starkiller would helm the most prestigious Imperial fleet and officers to conquer these worlds one by one. Each world that Starkiller traveled to, in no time, would submit fully to the Empire's rule and pledge their allegiance to Emperor Palpatine. Any insurgents that arose were easily dealt with personally by Starkiller, and their lives were ended mercilessly by one of the most powerful Sith Lords the galaxy had ever come to know. Over the next several months, Starkiller's powers would increase tenfold, each defeated enemy increasing his powers within the dark side. This being was now the ultimate Force user, drawing upon energy from the darkest depths of the universe and the Force itself. The great Lord Starkiller was surely becoming more powerful than his aging master. After Palpatine's first objective was complete, his next and grand objective would follow suit. In the far reaches of the galaxy, even beyond the Outer Rim, Leia had slowly started rebuilding the rebellion. With the help of her now husband, Han Solo, they were gaining new friends and supplies that would eventually help them in destroying the Empire from within. But for now, they would be no match for the might of the Empire and its new enforcer, Lord Starkiller. Han and Leia had no idea that this new Sith apprentice was their dear friend Luke Skywalker, who had indeed not died on the Death Star, but that would soon change with the commission of Palpatine's new objective. One day while Leia was minding her own business, thinking about and planning the future of the now punitive rebellion, she suddenly heard a voice. Leia. Leia. Leia thought she knew who the voice was, but she didn't think it could be true. She thought she was just becoming paranoid, but the voice came once again. Leia. Leia. This time Leia knew she wasn't just hearing things. It was the voice of Ben Kenobi. But how could she hear him, and why? For the rest of that day and into the night, Leia had been thinking about it. She was Luke Skywalker's sister, and he had the power of the Force. He had told her on the Endor moon that she had that power too. Maybe this was why Ben had called out to her. If her brother was indeed dead, then maybe it was as Luke had said, that she was the last hope for the Rebel Alliance. Ben? Luke is alive. His plan has only just taken shape. And with that sentence, Obi-Wan Kenobi disappeared back into the cosmic realm of the Force, much as he did in The Empire Strikes Back with Luke. Leia now understood that she was wrong about her brother. He was indeed still alive, but where and how? She now had so many questions, but what could Ben have possibly meant by Luke's plan? Back in the heart of the Empire on Coruscant, Palpatine and Starkiller were starting to discuss the plan for destroying the rebellion once and for all. They would travel to the Outer Rim and attack an innocent civilian population. These actions would surely grab the attention of Leia and the other rebels. Lord Starkiller would be at the forefront of the mission, leading the Empire's freshened troops in his Super Star Destroyer. As soon as the Sith's conversation had concluded, Starkiller and Palpatine's best troops would depart from Coruscant. This was the day that would lead to the culmination of all of Palpatine's work. He had infiltrated the Republic, seduced the Jedi Order's apprentice, and now he controlled the son of the Chosen One. Or so he thought. Once Starkiller's fleet emerged out of hyperspace, legions of stormtroopers and TIE fighters would flow down to the innocent planet. Once they reached the surface, they would be met by the remnants of the shattered rebellion. Han and Leia had received word from a whistleblower that this world would be a major target for the Empire. What they didn't know was that Palpatine's enforcer had arrived as well. Suddenly, Leia and the other rebels could hear marching footsteps, and within minutes they had been reached. Once the battle started, the Empire would take it easy. Due to Starkiller's orders, blaster fire could be heard for miles on end. The rebels were putting up a fight, but it wasn't enough. Each rebel soldier equaled 20 Imperial stormtroopers. The Empire was more equipped and continued to march forward, blaster bolts flaring constantly from their barrels. Eventually, the Empire ceased fire, and there was an ultimate silence for the next several moments. This silence was finally broken by the roar of an advanced TIE's engines. None other than Darth Starkiller was the pilot. Once he emerged from the ramp of this newly designed Imperial fighter, there was a break in the line of stormtroopers that went right down the center of the flank. Starkiller immediately started strolling down the middle. Leia knew that this being was the Emperor's new enforcer, but as Luke continued walking, she could feel something change within the Force. He was now completely within her line of sight. Suddenly, emotions overcame her. She couldn't believe that the man who had set out to redeem their father had returned a more evil man than he. Suddenly, Luke raised his hand, and Leia's blaster would be forced out of her hand and then onto the ground in pieces. Han wasn't far from the two. He was surprised and confused, but he wasn't going to let anyone hurt Leia. Han immediately drew his DL-44 blaster to shoot in Luke's direction, but before he could even fire, Luke used the Force to freeze Solo in place with the Force ability called Force Stasis. After these immensely quick events, Luke would continue his path until he was just feet away from her. She was still extremely confused. This man was no longer her brother. This being was one of complete anger and hatred. The Darkside had consumed him. Upon reaching her, he would ignite his saber and say, "You're coming with me, rebel scum." And with that, we have an end to part 1. Let me know your guys' thoughts on the story so far down below in the comments. This fanfiction will definitely have 3 parts, so also let me know what you think should happen next down below. We are only 300 subscribers away from 1,000, so smash that subscribe button so you have a chance to enter into the 1,000 subscriber giveaway once I hit 1K. Thanks again for watching, everyone, and as always,